It is cold here in New York City and snowy, but we're still grateful and happy that we are still here. Welcome to the Endup vlog number 2, Tales from the Startup Underground. So today I want to talk about starting your startup, and I'm going to tell you about how Waxx Tech started and about things that I think were red flags that I didn't ignore, but I just didn't have the experience to see at the time, and none of us had the experience to really see. I mean, I'm not going to go back and point fingers that somebody should have done something because none of us knew what we were doing in the very beginning. Now, to back it up, Waxx Tech wasn't initially called Waxx Tech. We were called Stretch Tech, and we were a stage performance company. We wanted to use our instruments. I should say I'm a trombone player by trade. John, our CEO, is a saxophone player by trade. And our CTO actually is a saxophone player as well. All three of us met while we were doing our undergrad degrees at New School University, and John and myself ended up going to NYU for our master's degree in music, and our CTO ended up going to John Jay for computer forensics. So obviously he made the smarter choice. Just kidding, maybe not. Anyways, that's also where we met our investor at NYU as well. So initially, the way any startup, we start like any startup. Somebody had an idea and wanted to make that idea a reality. That person was John, our CEO. He's not only a saxophone player, but he's also a Trekkie as well. And I should also say, I don't want to make it seem like he's just like a weekend warrior. He's Grammy nominated, master's degree. He's recorded a bunch. He's an amazing saxophone player. And he decided, he said, what if I was playing on the holodeck on the USS Enterprise? What would the holodeck be using to make an experience with my saxophone? And he said, one of the quantifiable things that I have is I use sound. I manipulate sound. That is something that can be read and measured. So he said, what would happen if I was playing on the holodeck? Well, probably something would be coming out of my instrument, or I could change the environment with the sound coming out of my saxophone. And so he had this idea. He told me about it. He told our investor about it. Initially, our investor wanted to see a proof of concept. Like most people who put money into a company, it's very rare. I think it's very rare that you see a company that comes along and doesn't have any type of proof of concept and just gets funded money. I mean, it happens. I would say it probably happens with people who have a track record of starting startups and taking in money, and they've done it before, so people trust them that if they put money in, that they can make the startup work. But not the case with us. We're still pretty unknown, unfortunately, which is why we're kind of in our predicament here now. But anyways, John told the investor he wanted a proof of concept, so I reached out to our CTO, who initially heard the idea and said it was impossible. But that's kind of who he is. He's super smart, one of the smartest people I know. And I know that's hyperbole, but it's true. Dude's a genius. He took when we started working on this proof of concept, he took an MIT course for digital signal processing online in 2 weeks, and then he reverse engineered a mathematician's work on sound location in a matter of weeks. He programmed the back end of our proof of concept. And prior to Stretch Tech starting, John had never programmed. John taught himself how to program, and he ended up programming the front end of the experience. So I'll put up some videos right now as I'm speaking of the early experiments that we were doing with Stretch Tech and our early proof of concepts. And as you can see, it was really incredible to step behind these Pepper's Ghost displays and having stuff come out of our instruments. I mean, I still haven't seen anything like it. And also, these predated like all that Tupac stuff. I mean, the problem with the Tupac hologram with Snoop Dogg and the Michael Jackson holograms is that you couldn't interact with them. You know, you get behind them. When you're behind a Pepper's Ghost display, you can't really see the holograms in front of you, but you also can't interact with them. Like, so when you see Snoop Dogg and Tupac on the Coachella stage, you'll see that Snoop Dogg had to hit marks at a certain times, or otherwise it would have looked funny because Tupac was just going to do his animation. That was it. But with Stretch Tech, we would have been able to have Tupac talk and look at Snoop Dogg if Snoop was like, "Yo, what up, Pac?" or whatever. So so we do this whole proof of concept. We set up this whole display, and we invite the investor over, and John set up the this whole experience in his apartment. And I just remember that first night sitting there thinking like, wow, this is incredible. You know, it's one of those experiences where you're just like, wow, this is going to happen someday. This is definitely a thing. And then from then on, our investor started putting money into the company to file for patents. I should say John himself wrote all of the provisional patents. He did, I mean, he's really been the life, blood, and soul of this company from the very start. And our investors start putting money in, and this is one of the first mistakes I would say as a startup. If you need to have a business plan, as far, just because you need to, you know, I think it was a mistake of ours that we were putting money in little by little. Our investor would put in, you know, 20K here, 30K here for convertible debt, which convertible debt is fine, but if you don't have like a business plan and a budget, and then you'll end up inside of a predicament where we ended up, where there was no money for co-founders to get any type of salary, which means that everybody has to work in their spare time or part-time, or sacrifice finances and money and work full-time, which is what John did throughout the course of this thing. Now, again, I hope I'm not coming across bitter. I mean, he knew what he was doing. He was an adult. He made that decision. And we all did, you know, we all believed in this thing. And if you believe in something enough, you'll sacrifice for it. If you love something enough, or a person enough, you'll sacrifice for them. I mean, I think anybody that's listening to this or watching this can attest to that. But we also weren't experienced at all. None of us had been involved in a tech startup like this before, and we just honestly didn't know what we were doing. And experience is our greatest teacher. So those of you who are starting your startup, I would say try to have some type of business plan, and try to have some type of idea of a realistic budget. I'm not saying for you co-founders out there to be trying to get, you know, a $200,000 a year salary. You should be getting a little bit of money so you can live off it while you focus on building your company, but building your brand, you know, even if you're not going to be hitting revenue anytime soon. But it starts with an idea, and you just gotta believe in that vision and believe that it's going to happen. John, in the early stages, had an idea, and to see it come to life, just in the early stages, was super awesome. It was so awesome. Him and Jamal, and the things that Jamal did with the programming, the back end with figuring out the algorithms to do the sound localization inside of a set space, and being able to localize. We were doing up to 5 sounds at one time, sound localization wise, which is our ability to hear where the source of a sound is coming from within a certain space. So let's say that there was a screen, and 10 feet out, 10 feet up from the microphones is where we could hear everything, and we could have things happen in certain quadrants, and it's how we did it and chopped it up. Again, this is going to happen someday. I'm sure someday you'll probably go to a concert and there'll be interactive holograms, and they'll probably be using some form of our technology. But anyways, tech startups, that's how it started. It started like most startups. It was a good idea, and it was actually executed. Proof of concept, as you saw in the videos earlier. There was a proof of concept, there was an idea, there was people that believed in it, and I still believe in it. I can't say the same for everybody in the company right now. But also, my last point that I want to say when it comes to starting your startup is understand that this is a battle of attrition. I mean, you don't know how long it's going to take. So if you're starting a startup, it might take 1 year, 2 years, it could take 10 years. And if you're not prepared for the long haul, then you're going to have problems. And I think that's one of the biggest things that happened. I think our investor wanted a quick ROI, return on his investment, and it didn't work out like that. I had a gut feeling from the start that it was going to be a long process, because you're introducing a technology. Even when we started, there was no Amazon Echo, and there was no voice recognition was not what it is right now, and voice enabled devices were not what they are right now, and they're still coming about. So I would say, if you're going to start a startup, you have to be prepared for the long game. Don't think you're going to just start your startup and then turn into Facebook inside of the first year. That's not how this works. And if it does work like that, it is extremely rare. So be prepared for the long game. No, the one thing about music that I can say for myself and John and our CTO, which is, I think this is one of the places where we split from our investor, is that, and I'll talk more about taking seed money, friends and family money, and what to look for in an investor inside of my next video. But for this one, if you do anything in life, let's say you build muscle, or you've gotten good at even playing checkers or something, you understand that getting good at something takes time on task, years of doing something. If I work hard every day for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I'm going to be somewhat proficient at that thing, even if I start off in a really bad place. So most things in life worth having take a lot of dedication, effort, and continued work, day in, day out, not over a couple weeks, not over a couple months, but over years and possibly decades. So when you start your startup, be prepared for that it's not going to be a 1-year deal and you're going to put in this money and get a 10x return on your investment. Whether that investment is time, because understand, time is important. Time, you never get it back, and you don't know how much you have, or money, right? So if you're starting your startup, you have to stay true to your vision, and you have to give it time, okay? So thank you everybody for listening. Again, this is the Endup vlog, and I just want to say, no matter where you end up, have faith, be positive, because as long as you're breathing, you don't know what's going to happen from day to day. Have faith in your vision, have faith in your dreams. Remember to subscribe, comment, like, share your stories with me. If you want me to talk about tech culture, let me know, and hope everybody is doing great, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.